Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another video. I don't know what that was. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having an absolutely incredible day. Don't forget to leave a like on the video. It is a free and easy way to support the channel. A very big thank you to everyone who leaves a like and everyone who comments as well on the videos. You help out the algorithm by a lot. And without any further ado, oh boy, let's jump right into it. As we have kept on hearing for the last couple of weeks, we are apparently, according to analysts, in the midst of the beginning of the start of we are here in altcoin season. We have been receiving a lot of news. I mean, this has been the general trend for a couple of months at this point. They meaning rich people, have realized how currently valuable these coins are and the potential for where people think that they're going to be over the course of the next couple of years, if not into infinity. We are getting a lot of buying news, a lot of holding news, a lot of new treasury news, a lot of strategic reserve news, a lot of conviction in Ethereum that prices are going to go much higher, that over the course of September, October, we're supposed to see a literal gigantic explosion of prices, where people talking about $7, $8, $9 Cardanos because of the movements of Ethereum and subsequently, of course, also for Bitcoin. Yes, the madness, as I call it, continues because we will enter a point relatively soon where all these coins are just kind of off the table. So make sure to always keep that in the back of your mind. This week alone witnessed a significant surge in institutional interest as 54 publicly companies, it says publicly okay. Anyway, disclosed that their Bitcoin treasury acquisitions, collectively purchasing 8,434 Bitcoin. And even that, I feel like that's also a little bit less, but this is just public entities over the course of a week. This uptick in accumulation highlights a growing trend, kind of, among corporations and investment funds to diversify portfolios with digital assets. We have heard this was 3 or 4 days ago. I don't remember. It was almost like one of those really weird warnings. Somebody else came forward and said, countries and corporations and institutions are actively trying to de-dollarize. They're doing whatever they can to, really not set off like panic within the general public by constantly getting rid of things that are associated with the US or the US dollar, simply because, in case you missed it, the US dollar is not doing too hot and hasn't been for the last couple of months. There are expectations, if interest rates fall, if there's more money printing, as there already has been, that we are basically going to see a total collapse of the entirety of the fiat system. This is the news that we've been getting. If this does transpire, if this does come to be, if you will, we're going to start seeing a lot more companies throwing as much money as possible into the cryptocurrency space. There seems to be a general divide as to which you think will prosper more. 95, if not more, % of companies are backing or throwing their weight behind Bitcoin. However, we are still seeing a significant amount of interest in Ethereum as well. I will also logically assume with all this stablecoin bill clarity, whatever these things are called, there's too many things happening on a daily basis. We're probably going to start hearing a lot more XRP news as well. And I say this from the standpoint of banks, as what banks have been interested in. And we have banks like that kind of thing. I don't think many other coins have been grouped into that category as of right now, as far as like this banking institutional kind of accumulation. But, yeah, 54 companies acquired 8,434 Bitcoin over the course of a week. That's 8,434 millionaires and billionaires who will never be able to own an entire coin. You must start thinking of things in that context, and then you'll really understand exactly how dramatic a lot of these purchases are. The strategic increase in Bitcoin holdings underscores confidence in its role as a hedge against macroeconomic uncertainties and inflationary pressures. Yeah, the news that we're getting is that things are going to get a little bit turbulent money-wise over the course of, basically from months ago. A lot of foreign currencies aren't doing that great at all. The US dollar comparative to them is not doing well. The US dollar is the world reserve currency, and that's also not looking like it's going to be lasting that much longer. From a logical standpoint, it looks like people are literally choosing Bitcoin over everything else. And I told you before in about 2 or 3 other videos, Bitcoin's going to succeed because these people want it to succeed. The people who own everything, not just BlackRock, who literally own the world, they're throwing all of their money at Bitcoin. By the time Bitcoin goes to $1 million, it's game over for every other asset class. If we end up seeing a $3.2, $4.5 million Bitcoin, this essentially means that people have chosen to move trillions of dollars from any other asset that they could have had exclusively into Bitcoin. It's gonna get real really fast, and I hope that everyone has been paying attention. That's the 54 companies bought almost 8,500 Bitcoin over the course of 7 days. And yeah, let's move on. Also this is how it works. A company, I assume this is a company called Pandu, P-A-N space D-U. It says a leading figure in the crypto investment sector has confirmed ongoing discussions with Hong Kong regulators regarding the introduction of an Ethereum ETF. This initiative aims to provide institutional and retail investors with regulated exposure to Ethereum, aligning with growing market demand for diversified crypto assets. The proposed ETF is slated to launch in the second half of the year. That's basically around this time. A lot of you may have missed a lot of the Hong Kong news. Hong Kong kind of dominated the last, the end of the second half of 2023 and the beginning of 2024. Why? Well, before the United States had any crypto-related ETFs at all, a lot of other countries got them before the US. Yeah, we've gone over that a few times. Canada, I believe, had them first. And then I believe there was Switzerland, maybe Germany as well, and then Australia. But a lot of people were mainly focusing on when the US would have them. And then regulators within Hong Kong were like, okay, we're going to work on cryptocurrency regulations. And I remember saying in a video, I was like, can you imagine if the SEC actually regulated and did what they were paid for? And then about 3 or 4 months later, Hong Kong regulators were like, cool, we got cryptocurrency regulation. And we were flabbergasted here. because at that point, it had been around 11, 12 years of people asking, near demanding the US SEC for some kind of regulation. And they were like, no, you know what you did wrong. So Hong Kong became at the forefront of the discussion of ETFs basically launching within the world. Hong Kong having a large amount of wealthy people, but also a large amount of people who are not wealthy either. So, yes, this goes back to the discussion of the Ethereum-focused kind of things. A lot of proposals this year, and I'm still waiting. I'm trying to be patient, but it's actually wearing thin. As far as the SEC, the US SEC, thus far this year has continuously kicked the can down the road for a number of altcoin and Ethereum-based ETFs, for whatever the reason might be. My speculation revolves around the idea that BlackRock and these other larger companies are basically telling the SEC to take their time with the applications because they want to acquire more as prices are lower. But we are going to start seeing a lot more of these ETFs popping up, as well as institutions seem to be falling in love with Ethereum, seemingly out of nowhere. Not really. Like, I know what's going on, but it's also kind of one of those things like, okay. So yeah, a new company. I do not remember saying this name at all. It says a leading figure in crypto investment. I think I would remember said the word Pandu before, and I don't. All right. Another Ethereum ETF is on the way, and yeah, let's move on. Also in the news, for those of you not looking at the screen, Thomas Lee is back in the news, stating that he believes Ethereum could surge to 30,000 US dollars if companies start using debt and equity to buy ETH like MicroStrategy did with Bitcoin. Tom Lee is no stranger to basically throwing up the idea of like numbers, and it's not that he's been correct, but Tom Lee has been one of those people. Tom Lee's one of those people who in 2017 went on to the news and was like, I think we could see a $5,000 Bitcoin, like that kind of thing. He makes conservatively accurate price predictions for things within the space that are kind of going to happen. But I feel like a lot of times he'll throw out a number just to make sure that he is definitely correct, if that makes sense. Not throwing dirt on his name. It's just more of it's like me being like, in the next 24 days, we're probably going to hear about at least 5 more companies buying Bitcoin. It's like, oh yeah, of course, that's definitely going to happen. And then we hear about 18 companies, but because I said 5, this mysticism surrounds me where people are like, he got it right. Okay. Tom Lee is making bold calls again, this time putting Ethereum in the spotlight. I don't know what's going on, but everyone is in love with Ethereum since those bills got passed. Ethereum is constantly in the spotlight right now. Tom Lee has said, if companies follow MicroStrategy's game plan and use their balance sheets to buy ETH with stocks and debt, a $30,000 Ether isn't just a dream, it's a math equation, my friends. This is obviously going to happen. It's just a matter of what time this actually ends up being. The news on the block is, for those of you who missed it in some sort of way, is that basically banks are going to be using Ethereum, like building their stable coins on top of it. It's just a matter of how many of them actually get it right. JP Morgan years ago, tried creating their first stablecoin, which they called JP Morgan coin. There was so much brouhaha surrounding this thing, and everyone talking about this was the future. The problem is that every other bank also created their own. Back then it wasn't called stable coins. They were called digital currencies, central bank digital currencies, without them being central banks, what have you. And each bank wanted every other bank to use their coin. A lot of these were built on forked versions of Ethereum or private chains or whatever the case might be. The general news right now is that we are allegedly going to see these companies, banks, institutions. We're having rumors still of Amazon, Uber, Apple, blah, 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 all making their own coins as well, which is going to be a thing. It doesn't take much to create a coin and then to incentivize people to use it. Imagine if Apple and Uber make an Apple coin and an Uber coin. And they say, if you are one of the first 10 million people to use this coin, to sign up, we will give you $500 worth of coins for free. Pretty nice incentive, right? On top of that, if over the course of the next 5 years, they don't say 5 years, but it's 5 years behind the scenes. If you use this coin when you are buying Apple products, if you use it when you're catching an Uber, your rides and your phone and your laptop have 15% off. Do you know how many people would rush into these coins? It doesn't take much. The companies, what usually happens is with like big finance, these companies kind of write a lot of these things off in taxes over the course of a decade. They're expecting a loss. We're giving away around $160 billion over the course of the next couple of years. We will be losing money from the 15%, but you hook people. They will then only use money within that economy. That's the reason why Facebook coin also got banned. A lot of people don't know that. Facebook overnight, their original coin Libra, or Librum, I don't remember. They were going to become the largest bank on the planet overnight. They would have had 1 million customers, basically anyone who used their platform. They would have been given a digital wallet. And a lot of people, we know, they would have essentially been given free money to use on the Facebook marketplace. The more things you do, the more games you play, the longer you stay onto Facebook, the more money potentially you could be making behind the scenes. Yeah, see, it all makes a lot of sense then. So what we have seen so far is that companies, as far as we know, have mainly been using money that they have on deck, like what they already have. This is where we heard recently some company announced they had just purchased $500 million worth of Ether. And then they had another fundraising round, but it looks like it was like a venture capital fundraising round and not actual debt against that company. So we are more than likely, and this is just based off of logic. Remember how I told you before, Metaplanet has this desire to purchase 210,000 Bitcoin. This becomes a lot more difficult as Bitcoin's price goes up, logically. So you're kind of forced in many different ways to continuously take out more debt unless you can somehow magically create $54 billion out of thin air. If Ethereum continues to rise, as all the analysts say, over the course of this year, there's a big difference between a $2,800 Ether, a $3,500 Ether, and a $7,000 Ether. If your goal is to own all of it, to control all of it, to make sure that it's yours so that you are the one staking it and creating passive income from it, you're going to have to up your numbers. The way that you up your numbers is kind of by following MicroStrategy's strategy. These people literally years ago were like, a year and some change, we're going to be issuing $1 billion worth of debt from this company. The problem is that it works. This is what we've been seeing this year. These companies have somehow managed to grow their companies, grow their crypto stash, raise the valuation of their companies 70-fold. That's not a fake number. Some of these companies, their stocks were at 58 cents. Now they're at $128. And is by issuing debt. The company, we recently heard of them as well. Bitmine, SharpLink, and Bit Digital are the two other companies who I was like, okay, we found out that they were literally Bitcoin mining companies, and then they completely reversed, and now they're, according to news, Ethereum exclusive. 3 companies have already scooped up over 682,000 Ether. I think this was in 2 weeks or something like that, and they're not done. Bitmine alone wants to own and control 5% of Ethereum's entire supply. In just a week, they reportedly bought more Ether than MicroStrategy did in its first Bitcoin round in 2020. Prices are a lot lower compared to Bitcoin. It does not take as much capital to make sure that you buy all remaining Ether. One company is literally on their way to owning 5% of all Ether. I don't think we do, but I feel like we do. There must be, does anyone know exactly how much Ether the Ethereum Foundation owns and controls? I assume it's a hefty portion. There was news in spring, the beginning of spring, that the Ethereum Foundation was like selling some coins. And I mean, the news was like they sold 1,100 Ether. They sold 3,000 Ether. People were like, you can't do that. You're going to lower the price. And I was like, you know, these people probably have like 22 million Ether, right? Ethereum, for those of you who don't know, was a pre-mine. So there was a hefty amount of it that was like mined, created, before it actually even went public. And I think the 7 or so people who are credited with being the co-creators of it, I believe they got between 10, 15, and 20,000 Ether each for simply like creating the actual project. And as I said with the Winklevoss twins, the Winklevoss twins said that they own 200,000 Bitcoin. That was back in 2012. We can logically assume they at least own one more. They probably have several 100,000 Bitcoin just based off of complete logic. If you create an Ethereum Foundation, you probably are backing it with Ether. So we can probably assume that the amount of Ether on crypto exchanges and everywhere else also isn't liquid. We got news recently that 1/3 of Ether is currently being staked. That number's going to rise as the Ethereum price also rises. We got news recently as well. I think it was Bitmine. Bitmine has, however, I think whatever 100,000 something Bitcoin. The majority, if not 90% of their Ether is also being staked. We are going to see a world, I give it less than 2 years. 50, 60, 70% of Ether is going to be locked away inside of the system. I don't even think that it's really going to take companies pulling a MicroStrategy to actually get us to $30,000. I really don't think so. I think it's going to happen a lot quicker than people think, because a lot of people within crypto don't really pay a lot of attention to Ethereum. This whole, energy being thrown their way is a relatively new thing. The news so far has really resolved around Bitcoin, around XRP. There were days where Solana might have entered the news. Cardano's price goes up. Cardano's in the news. Any other random altcoin. Ethereum was there simply because it's the number 2 coin. We never had this kind of energy surrounding Ethereum before. I think these people know that they can scoop up all of it. This is how you get two Bitcoin agnostic companies announcing that they're no longer mining Bitcoin or buying Bitcoin, and they're throwing all their energy behind Ethereum. SharpLink is apparently, that's the company. SharpLink is backed by Ethereum co-founder. His name is Joseph Lubin. Boosted their SEC, geez, what? Oh my gosh. Boosted their SEC filing. So they have to file with the SEC to announce, hey, we're doing X, Y, and Z with our stock, with our securities, with our something, and using that money to buy this asset. They rose their SEC filing from $1 billion to $6 billion US dollars. $6 billion US dollars to announce that they're going to buy more Ethereum. And Bit Digital sold stock and apparently also sold some Bitcoin to purchase over 100,000 ETH. Yeah, there's a lot happening all at the exact same time. This space is, I was going to say getting crazy. No, I think we've been there for a very long time. We've had a couple $100,000 Ether predictions before. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Unless something gargantuan happens, it's probably not going to be this cycle. We're looking like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15,000 is in the cards apparently this cycle. I could see if cycles are broken and Bitcoin kind of just continues 1%ly every 4 days continuing to go up, Ethereum would probably do the same. If cycles are broken and prices do keep rising slowly until the next halving, what have you, I could then see 2028, 2029, a $30,000 Ethereum. To think that Ethereum's going to stay where it is now is a foolish play, because these companies and institutions are going to buy all of it. If you thought it was dramatic for Bitcoin, they don't need a lot of capital or as much capital to be able to buy up all the Ether. And I think that's where we are going. Yeah. Hope everyone out there is doing well. Making sure to take it easy for yourself in general. There's always, I see what my friends are going through. Everyone's kind of, for some reason, going through something. Life's pretty intense. And for the person who just heard me say that and went, well, not my life, God bless you. I imagine you are living a wonderful life, and I hope that everyone else gets there as well. So to the one person who's not going through it, cool. Golf clap for you. To everyone else, make sure to take it easy. Really, do something that makes you laugh, that you have fun with. Call a friend, invite somebody over, watch a movie, have a pizza night, have an ice cream night. Do something that makes you happy, because we all need it. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope that it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.